Good day, everyone. I am Hexilon Álvarez, Trustee and Director for Youth and Indigenous Peoples Concerns of the Earthsavers Dreams National IT Center. It is a great honor to be part of this gathering of global voices, each rooted in a deep ancestral knowledge and spiritual relationship with our planet that has guided our peoples for generations. Deeply grateful to represent not only my own Gadang heritage, but also the shared commitment of many indigenous communities to protect and preserve our environment. As we convene in this historic forum, let us listen, learn, and uplift the ancestral wisdom that has safeguarded our lands, waters, and ways of life. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the South-South Cooperation Council, UNESCO, and the many indigenous elders, leaders, and organizers who made this gathering possible. May this forum inspire meaningful action grounded in tradition, resilience, and peace. In the light of the twinning agreement completed between Manila and Cartagena, it has been suggested that the Philippines be invited to host and organize a focused follow-up SDGs Indigenous Heritage-based International Educational Forum and Workshop for the Asia-Pacific region, considering the Philippines is strategically located in ASEAN and holds the presidency of the Social Change Network of the International Theatre Institute. This initiative might be facilitated by the Earthsavers, a non-government organization whose initiatives have received patronage from UNESCO by transmitting the Cartagena Declaration by the appropriate government agencies like Commission for Indigenous Peoples, NCIP, Local Government, DILG, Education DepEd, Tourism DATI, Social Welfare DSWD, Environment and Climate DNR and CCC for partnership as a UN SDGs goal. This international forum on ancestral wisdom and environmental protection could be the driving force of the collection, documentation, and meaningful exchange of essential data that highlights the diverse cultural wealth of every country's indigenous heritage. This includes tribal chants, epic narratives, and traditional ceremonies associated with courtship, marriage, birth, christening, death, and the struggle for human rights and preservation of cultural identity. Most of all, the care for environmental protection and disaster resilience for lifelong learning. These cultural expressions are not only spiritual and social anchors, but also transmit practical knowledge on sustainability, disaster resilience, human rights, and peaceful coexistence. Yet in the Philippines, there is currently a significant lack of accessible information about the country's 1110 indigenous communities. Many Filipino students can name more U.S. states than indigenous tribes in their own country. This gap can be addressed through communication, education, and the promotion of creative industries, from the diversity of hand-woven textiles and crafts to traditional instruments, attire, and storytelling. The indigenous communities could consider joining the International Indigenous Broadcasting Network and encourage public service media to amplify indigenous voices and images, heroic tales, and traditional practices. State universities may adopt communities and serve as cultural banks, documenting, preserving, and integrating key information into curricula, while also inspiring new contemporary cultural expressions rooted in ancestral heritage. Collaboration with the tourism and trade sectors can support a one-stop shop model for indigenous creative industries, ensuring that economic benefits go directly to the communities instead of earnings gained by middlemen. National airlines, for instance, should also feature and promote exceptional native creations instead of limiting their offerings to imported perfumes, ties, and chocolates from Europe or America. By showcasing indigenous talent and ancestral wisdom, we can begin dismantling deep-rooted and long-standing biases and prejudice. Protecting indigenous rights is crucial to this mission, a vision championed by my father, the late Senator Harrison T. Álvarez, the first indigenous member of the Gadang tribe elected to national office. He was the principal author and sponsor of the Indigenous People Rights Act of 1997, which became a landmark legislation recognizing indigenous identity, culture, and territorial rights. The IPRA law institutionalized critical protections, including certificates of ancestral domain title, the establishment of the Philippine National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, and the principle of free, prior, and informed consent, FPIC, ensuring that no development may proceed on ancestral lands without the genuine approval of the communities. This legal recognition is intrinsically tied to environmental protection. An estimated 75% of the Philippines' remaining forest and 96 out of 128 key biodiversity areas fall within indigenous managed ancestral domains. These lands are not just homes, they are ecological sanctuaries, stewarded for centuries through rotational farming, sacred practices, and intergenerational knowledge. However, these protections remain under threat. Over 1.25 million hectares of ancestral lands face large-scale mining, deforestation, dam building, and commercial energy projects. More than 1.9 million hectares are now covered by mining permits, a quarter of which directly overlap with biodiversity hotspots. These violations not only accelerate environmental degradation, they also trigger conflict, displacement, and violence against indigenous defenders. Our ancestral territories are not only heritage sites, they are living libraries of biocultural diversity. With 85% of biodiversity hotspots in the country under indigenous care, we must recognize that ancestral wisdom is not a relic of the past. It is a blueprint for the future of environmental governance. Fortunately, our youth are rising to the challenge. From forest rangers to cultural collectives, indigenous young people are using digital platforms, storytelling, and advocacy to protect their lands and revive traditional practices. Groups like the Dumagat Remontado Rangers of Sierra Madre are blending ancient guardianship with modern tools to ensure resilience in the face of climate and ecological threats. This valuable charter must go beyond being a historic document that must be realized in equity of opportunities in education, health, trade, and commerce, protection of ancestral lands, and the foundation for the appreciation of indigenous wisdom, which helped promote the enshrinement of Indigenous Peoples Month in October and the observance of the UN International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples on August 9th. These are significant occasions to reconnect with ancestral knowledge. Let us draw from UNESCO and UN declarations and reassert our national commitment to honoring and empowering indigenous communities. The Hutru, the epic of the Cordillera, and the Darangun epic of our Muslim community have been inscribed in the UNESCO Memory of the World. Let us commit to translating ancestral wisdom into tangible policy, education, and empowerment. Let us ensure that these voices are not only heard but honored in action. Let us bond our global commitment to honoring, protecting, and empowering indigenous peoples, our first stewards of the earth. Thank you for your attention.